I don't have to be the person who helps you fix your life to get my needs met.
Yeah.
I don't have to make sure you're okay before I make sure I'm okay to relate to you. I can relate to you as an adult.
In this episode, we will talk about people pleasing and how it is tied to the Asian and Black community. We're diving into Rhonda Johnson's courageous story, understand how people pleasing affected her, and how she is now helping women choose themselves. Be sure to listen in to hear all the details. Hello, my wonderful beasties. It's Tina, your host. Welcome to the Courageous Inner Beast. Here in today's episode, we have Rhonda Johnson, who is a business owner of Limitless Empowerment with RhondaJay. Thank you, Rhonda, for coming in. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. So what is one courageous story that you would like to share to our audience?
Well, so tell you more about my business and then I'll get into my courageous story.
Yeah.
My passion is helping mainly women, but anybody who wants to learn to care for themselves, give their needs a voice. That's my passion. My passion is uncovering all those feelings that we have that make us people pleasers, overgivers, and super women, super men, super folk. Why do we do that? I want to help people uncover that so that they can continue to help, but in a capacity that's realistic and balanced for them.
Yeah.
So that's my story. About 3-4 months ago. And I've always been a people pleaser, straight up card carrying member. I pay my membership every month. I've always been like that. But it's been about 3 or 4 months, I hit my limit. My mother was getting surgery. I had family over. I was just a yes machine. Yes, 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 yes. And all of a sudden, I could not yes anymore. And I didn't know what was happening. I felt guilty. I felt shame. I felt bad. What happened was the rubber band finally broke. I could not stretch it anymore. And I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
I didn't know myself outside of that space. And so I just was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? So I'm in mental health. I'm actually a graduate student at Walden. So I know what I need to be doing. And then I had to do it.
Yes.
And it was just scary. And I just was like, oh my goodness, I really need to be what I tell, when I did my practicum and things like that. And as a life coach as well, I had to do what I told clients to do, which is, what are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
And how do you really take care of that feeling as opposed to saying yes to everybody, saying yes to everything? What's really going on with you? And so that just from then to now, I'm still on that journey. And that's my story of courage, because it takes a lot of courage to be one thing your whole life that actually benefits you, right?
Yeah.
You feel good, you feel like a champion. I felt like a fixer and a hero, but in all actuality, it was not working for me. So it takes a lot of courage to say, okay, this is not working for me, So that's why I am here now. And that's part of it too. As I'm helping other people, I'm vulnerable and helping myself too. So it's an interesting place that I'm in.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that story. You're implementing both yourself and also helping other women with it too.
Yes.
Do you have a time? I'm just curious, do you have a time where when you were going, taking that courageous step, how did you feel? Was there feelings of any other feelings of when you're taking that step? I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah. Well, I felt, there are feelings of confusion, right?
Yeah.
Because I just thought this is what I do. People ask me to do things, help them out with things. I thought I was saying yes because I actually had the capacity to do it. But when I realized that I didn't, and here's the thing, I realized I didn't when it was I was stressed, man. I was like, what's happening? Right. So it wasn't this moment was ding, no more. It was a feeling that I was like, what is happening in my mind and my body?
Yeah.
And so what I realized, it was confusion.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Then it was like, okay, now I have to actually say that and
Yeah.
act upon it. And it was really difficult because I could just go on all day about it. Being a people pleaser is so layered
Yeah.
that we become that to, in my opinion, to
Yeah.
get away from certain things. So I was people pleasing because it helped me feel closer to people and it avoided conflict, right? Which
Hmm.
is exactly what, when you're like, I can't do it no more, that's exactly what comes in. Like, okay, you're going to become disconnected from people, and then you're going to invite a level of conflict. And so that caused a whole other, try to be, a whole other shitstorm of feelings, right? So you're
Yeah.
confused, you're anxious, you're scared. Um,
I think also like for me personally too, like just you don't want to disappoint other people. Or
that,
like that's like
yes,
feeling like you're someone
sure.
who's not gonna like you. So cause yeah, no one's gonna like you if you don't follow through what they
Sure.
want. And
Mhm.
sometimes, feeling that you're a disappointment if you don't do what they like. And
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I'm a recovering from people pleasing too,
Right.
and it's everything you're saying so hard resonates with how we want to be a certain way for other people and to make sure, but then feeling disconnected with you, avoiding conflict. Yeah, that's all under the umbrella of what being a
Yeah.
people pleaser is. And
Right.
so
And
yeah,
I'm glad you chimed in with that. What I hope that, we're conveying, with your Courageous Beast podcast is that these, I don't even want people to think of them as labels, because when we think of labels, we think of judgment.
yes,
So that was another part of what I had to do, is get out of the judgment of saying, yes, I'm a people pleaser.
yeah,
Okay. Um, because it's really no judgment. It's how we got along in life.
yeah,
It's so I'm all into like different mental health theories and stuff. And one of them in child development is attachment theory. Um, and that's just how we attach or did not attach to our caregivers in our environment. And so there are different ways we attach to them. And these different ways determine how we interact with our environment.
yeah,
So early on, before we even figured it out, some people, like you and I, we learn to people please. That's how we interact with the environment. This is how we get a level of validation from
yeah,
others. And then we get a sense of belonging for ourselves,
yeah,
right? So when I started thinking about it on that level, I stopped the judgment part. And I
yeah,
started saying, it's a defense mechanism. And then it's a survival tactic. But what I had to realize now is that I'm an adult, you know, and I have agency. I can use my words, like real words,
yes,
and say, okay, this is what I want. This is what I need. I don't have to be the person who helps you fix your life to get my needs met.
yeah,
I don't have to make sure you're okay before I make sure I'm okay to relate to you. I can
yeah,
relate to you as an adult. And so that's one of the big things I realized too, is that we don't we got to take that judgment out, because I think that keeps us from changing.
yeah,
If we sit there and say, oh yeah, I'm a people pleaser, I do this, I do that, because to me, some people say, oh, that's being a doormat. No, it's literally how you survived.
yeah,
It's how you got through life.
yeah. No, it's I'm just soaking everything in. You're talking right now, and I'm just like I have no words because literally I don't. It's it's exactly that. It's where you
Yeah,
feel like you're not allowed to do something unless someone said so first.
sure,
You're
sure.
having that
Yeah,
permission to letting go of that judgment. Like you're thinking, I think for me personally, sometimes I can't even say, "Can I do this first?" I have to ask my friend, my mom, or whoever,
yeah,
should I do this? Versus just choosing to do it, to
yeah,
change
right.
it, to be what I want to do without asking for validations first.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
That's exactly, that's how exactly how I was feeling. And to an extent, I still feel,
yeah.
is there is this level of permission I liked it not only as a permission, but safety. Is it safe enough for
Mm-hmm.
me to go out and try these things? Because people pleasing to me it's a predictable cycle, right? I mean,
Yes.
this person asked for this, you do this, you get this desired result, as
Yeah.
opposed to, okay, I have to go out and take the risk. Can I do it?
Yeah.
So it's just very, it,
I
it's
feel like,
something, go
oh, go
ahead.
ahead. Oh no,
Oh,
because when you mentioned about like safety, like is it safe
yes,
enough to do it?
sure.
I think for me in safety in regards to in my culture, really, it's is it safe enough to do this that whoever I'm trying to please will still love me?
Right.
Will they still like me if I do this? You know,
Yes.
so it's that safety mechanism in regards to it's like, yeah, just like you just want to make sure that you will still be loved.
Oh
A
yeah.
safety mechanism behind that.
Right. And so I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, so a part of what I'm learning now is it is cultural, systemic and societal response, right? Because it's like we want, yeah, we want to have this kumbaya, hold hands, we're all this and all that, but we're not,
Yeah.
and that's not saying that, oh, that's a bad thing. It's that your culture is different than mine.
Yes.
And we need to respect each other's cultures
Yeah.
because, like, same way, like you were saying, there's a way to disappoint in the Black culture that may
Yeah.
be different from yours and may be the same. But our collectivism that we have, it's like you can't step out of that though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in the Black community, it is huge that it's like, like the parents get older, you take care of them. You take
Oh,
care.
yes. Same thing with
Okay.
my Vietnamese culture
That's what I
too.
was thinking the same. Okay.
Yes, hands down.
Yes. And I'm all for that.
Me too.
However, the reality is that not everybody can do that. And again, it's not a bad thing. It's just not, but you got to know if you're that person before that happens.
Yeah.
And for my culture, back in the day, that's what people just did. That, they just, hey, mama needs somebody to stay with her. We do that to the very end, even if it's 20, 30 years. Okay. But now, to me, it's like, because I'm in that position of caregiver, and it's like, yeah, but there's really has to be a balance. If there's not a balance, if everything goes into her caregiving, I'm going to be given out.
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's where you get into dark areas, you just, at the very least, you'll be resentful. And there's no need for that. But what I realized was that when you step outside of that caregiving, you're stepping outside of a whole cultural dictate as a woman, saying, I could take care of mama, but I really would like some help. Or I really would, maybe we could hire, if you could able to hire a nurse, fine. If you have to sort of, you get this day, you get that day, this, you have to do that. But it is hard in our culture because of how we, like you were saying earlier, how we will be judged by others in our culture,
Yeah.
For not doing that. So
Yeah. No, it's really like whoever, if our parents, it starts to get really, they're getting old and they're living on their own before, usually it's the oldest child that brings them.
okay.
The oldest child takes the mom. And then, and if not the oldest, is either the youngest. Because usually in my culture, we have a lot of kids in between. So there's sometimes between the first or the littlest. And it's really, yeah, like it's just, there's just so much pressure of trying to do what you want versus them. Because like you said, even if you want to be the caregiver, but you can't take the whole enchilada of
Mm-hmm.
both your parents, asking for help too in that, it's hard because many people for us, like as women, we're known to have to take the whole responsibility because we are the
Right.
more caretakers. We're more prone to easily take care of our parents. We already know how they are, how their habits are, the habitual, everything to the T that we need to ask us, because we already know that our intuition just brings up like how they're supposed to be,
Right.
you know, and so it's just easily like that. Or
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's
Yeah. It's hard.
yeah,
It's very difficult because you have generational clashes,
yeah,
you know, with the older generation and like how they are. I had an interesting, I don't know if I told you this in our time before this, but I was talking to my mock client I had a class in school. This what got me really interested in the cultural aspects of self-care.
yeah,
And she was Black like me. And she was saying that, she was talking to her grandmother. And she was like, I just want to tell my grandmother that, the buck stops here. She just, my people. We have this thing.
yeah.
I don't know if y'all do. We have this thing where there's somebody in the family that's just got to tell you about yourself, right?
Yes, I,
Yeah, okay. Okay.
it's like, oh, they're unfiltered. They don't mind just saying whatever
Yes,
they want to say.
that part. And I got them too. So when she said that, I was like, oh boy, who's yours? So hers was her grandmother. And so she was saying that, this, come around the holidays and like, it's just like pass the turkey. Let me tell you about yourself. And so she was just saying, can we stop it? Can we I just want to tell her, just not me, not now. And it was very interesting. She was like, grandmother passed it down to her mother, who passed it down to her. And she's like, I don't want to pass it down to my kids, but I really have to level up with her and tell her, this isn't good. And I'm an adult. My mom client's an adult. The grandmother was an adult.
Yeah.
And it was just this thing where it was like, I can't talk to her about it. And I was like, well, you have to. I mean, if you want to keep going around her, you're going to have to broach the subject. And so, I mean, it was this whole thing where her mother was like, no, we just learned to live with it. You should too. And what she told me, this was powerful. She said, well, her mother, the mother of the mock client told her, this is how, she grew up. She's in her 90s. So she really saw the racism and segregation. And so, of course, because of that, she became this person and all these layers and all these walls. So she had to be that way without in society. And so she's that way within with family. And so, of course, after like 70 years of living a certain way, this is how she is.
Yeah.
And I thought about that and I was like, this is deeper than just taking care of yourself, especially. And that's why I'm so glad you reached out to me, especially those of us that aren't white, and not to, put anything against that, but it's different being in these cultural spaces. And not only do you have pressure on you as a woman to care for others, but pressure through your own culture to do that, and then, because we're hitting headlong against people who experience racism in ways that we may not ever, encounter. And it makes them a certain way, and then it makes them expect something out of us.
Yeah. Like they're just more, they just makes more like we have to put more of who we aren't already are into the world that, I mean, everything's like, it's my emotions are like I just feel it's hard, like, because even I think you were mentioning, your mock client was saying how her grandma of 70 years living, like she wants to tell her, but at the same time just feels she can't because it's her grandma. Like, 70 years, once you have your habits and everything is like pretty solidified, and changing of how you view things or how you did things is very hard and extremely difficult with that. And I can resonate with that definitely, of along with, racism, and also just how in different cultures, you mentioned about, for us, we're like people of color, and then white people, they have their own sets of circumstances that sometimes we just can't relate.
Right.
And just like we all have, each of us has our own set of issues and circumstances, that it's how when we move forward with pleasing other people, it's just different.
It's a tradition breaker.
Yeah. And it
that we
also,
have
like you
to be.
mentioned, oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, it's just like a generational, like bringing,
Mhm.
it's in generations, like bringing it down of like grandmother, mother, and not who you are now. And
Right,
so, yeah.
right. Because I just believe that I'm in the mental health field, and I just see, you know, just a lot of, especially when we talk about anxiety and depression, I see a lot of people trying to be something and do something that they're not, and really not being able to articulate their feelings,
Yeah.
and that's something that they've never been taught. I was never taught. It was just like, happy, sad, and blah. If you're in the blah section, sorry for you. Yeah, I mean, it's
It's
like, no,
also,
there's a whole spectrum in there.
I just
And
realized,
that's what. Go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting
You're
you.
fine.
Because it's just answering right now, just right there. You didn't mention anger. Like as if like in the woman's, it's not even in the woman's
Right,
vocabulary that we're not allowed to be angry about
right.
something. And it's just like I was just like happy,
Yeah.
sad.
See,
Yeah,
right,
it's that's the only two emotions that we could feel. And if we were to be angry, you're saying, "Oh, you're being too much. Oh, you're
right,
aggressive," and like just all of that in that spectrum too. It's like,
right. Yeah. So
yeah,
if that's what we learn in our family of origin, why would we embrace those? Why
right,
would we? How could we? Right? Because it's like, if I say I'm tired, right? Like, I'm tired today.
yeah.
I would get, what do you mean? Or I'm tired too, and what? Right? Which to me, um, it's just a thing where you like, but dang, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, yeah, you tired too. Okay, well, I guess I shouldn't feel that way. And I don't know about you. For me, I didn't realize how invalidating that was, because it's like, okay, I mean, I'm talking about me. I mean, okay, we tired together. That's not a good thing. That's not great. um, yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but it's sort of like, to me, what I want for women, definitely, and women of color especially, to get out of this. It's a badge of honor to take on my problems and everybody else's problems.
Yes.
Even if you can't, here's the thing, even if you know the solution to everybody's life and everything like that, that's great. That's still not your place. It's just not. It's not your place. This other person you're carrying on, they're probably an adult. They need to learn responsibility, and you need to learn boundaries, ma'am.
Yeah.
You need to stop.
Yes. Like we can't keep enabling other people to just continue their behaviors just because you want to protect them and you love them, you care for them. But sometimes bring that energy back to you because you need that as well.
Right,
Because
right,
yeah, because like you said, everyone is adult. Like in our lives now, everyone's practically an adult. They are able to figure out. Everyone knows what is going on in their bodies. They just not want
right,
to do it, and or
right.
maybe there's just a lot of conflicted feelings and thoughts that they're trying to go through. And it's
Mm-hmm.
good to support them, but you don't have to take all of it on you to
Yeah,
do everything for them.
right. You don't. I mean,
Yeah.
because one of my mantras is, they're over there snoring in the bed. You up here wondering about their problems. You're trying to figure out their problems, and they sleep.
Yeah.
They are not thinking about it. They're good. And you sitting here like, okay, I can't speak for anybody else. That's what I used to do. Foolishness like that. I was like, what? And I'm thinking, I mean, drooling on a pillow. They chilling.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to solve their problems and help them.
Yeah.
And I had to get to a place where I was like, no, like, whatever you're doing, because here's a funny thing. Once I stopped looking for permission, I saw other people come to me like, oh, no, you don't need my permission, say so, none of that. Please take
Yeah.
that on yourself.
Yeah. And
you
yeah.
know? And once I realized, I stopped worrying about what other people going in their lives and doing what I needed to do. It lightened the load. And I actually found that I could create the interactions I wanted,
Yeah.
without being so heavily involved in other people's lives and telling them what to do. It's too much.
Yeah. It's like you do you, I do me, and then we'll just go on this path together
That's
in our
it.
own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just hope it works. I mean,
Yeah. All we
and
hope
if
is to
not,
hope that we, do it together for a long
yeah,
time. Yeah.
Definitely.
And so this conversation has been so great.
Awesome, awesome. Me too. Yeah, this is good. And I want to thank you again for bringing me on here and bringing up the cultural aspects. I mean, I think that's so important. It's just it's relevant. It's
Yeah.
relevant. It really shows the nuanced reasons why we as women have so much trouble focusing on ourselves when we really need to. So
Yeah.
thank you
Because
for
yes,
this.
like you said, sometimes we forget since
Yeah,
we're always focusing on someone else
yeah.
all the time.
Hmm.
And so, yes, thank you so much, Rhonda, for taking this
Definitely.
time and just speaking on this episode. And how would you want our listeners to support and stay connected with you and your work on that
Awesome.
too?
Okay, so I have a podcast coming out. I don't know if you can see my little shirt. It says The Self-Care Revolution with RhondaJay. And I'll provide the YouTube um, link for you because I haven't got it up yet. But that's coming.
Okay, we're all in
And
support.
yes, yes. And then of course you come on, yeah, be a guest, would be great. And I have a virtual workbook coming out called The No Guilt Guide to Boundary Setting for People Pleasers, Over Givers, and Superwomen. That's all the stuff is coming out soon. And so the podcast will start off as a companion piece for that workbook. So again, I'll provide you with links and everything to share with your listeners. You can find me on Facebook. Just type in Limitless Empowerment with Rhonda J, RhondaJay, one word, and just come join me. I try to go live many times a week. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I really try to keep tabs on everybody. So yeah, that's how you can find me. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And thanks everyone for listening in. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the follow button and see new episodes every Tuesday on the Courageous Interviews. Thank you for listening in. If you enjoy our conversation and would like to get connected with Rhonda Johnson, please look in the description and show notes for more information and the links.